Staff, welcome to our annual general meeting. And opening the meeting, just a reminder, we are live on air, so we are recording. We are now finally recording, which is good. I've got two apologies, Councillors Stojanczyk and Dakin. Any declaration of interest for the annual general meeting? Now, the confirmation of the minutes of the annual general meeting, it should read, of the City of Launceston held on 3rd of December 2020 be confirmed. Someone happy? Councillor Spencer moves, seconded Councillor Harris. All those in favour? That is all councillors that are present at the meeting. Then we move on to public question time. We have public questions on notice there with their answers that are there. 4.1 and 1.2. And 4.2 is public questions without notice. Any public questions without notice?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Robin Smith on behalf of Coffee Republic, a business in the Brisbane Street Mall. I wonder if you could, or an officer, provide an update for the work in the Brisbane Street Mall adjusting the thylacines and the octagonal seats, please. We haven't heard for some time. Yeah. Is there anything that Council could say on that?
Yep. CEO will update you.
Thanks. The work is progressing with our placemaking team. It's certainly nowhere near as fast as we would have liked. It's been complicated by trying to deal with a number of matters along with the matters that you raised, which principally it's around trying to inject some greening into the mall, as well as the dealing with the thylacine sculptures and the seats that we agreed. So it has been complicated by dealing with services and these sorts of matters that are hopefully close to being dealt with, but that's the reason for the delay, and all we can do is apologise for the time that one's taken.
Okay. Thank you. You previously described it as a work in progress, so I guess it still is.
Yep.
As is Sunday parking and provision for those food delivery services, I wonder if that is being progressed at all or looked at. I did see it didn't appear much in the traffic review plan, but the Sunday parking was an issue that's recognised. Essentially, I've said it a couple of times, the staff being our own worst enemy, filling all the spaces up in the city. And then during normal operation, those quick delivery services, there are 4, I think, operating in Launceston: Uber Eats, Menulog, DoorDash and Deliveroo.
Yep, thank you. The General Manager will answer that. You have to go to that mic there. Thank you.
About a month ago, Council adopted the Launceston Transport Strategy. Along with that, it adopted a central area parking improvement plan, which is the direction in terms of parking controls in the CBD, which includes controls on a Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you. And painful as it is, well, actually, no, a question the office has written in motion that I propose here, 5.1 on today's agenda, when the officer says that the council, this is in reference to reviewing CCTV cameras where currently there is no coverage, and the word I'm using is coverage. The officer responds by saying council is currently undertaking a review of closed circuit television cameras and security in creative spaces. They could be taken as two different things. I'm saying, well, I know there's certain areas of the mall that don't have coverage, which is the purpose of my motion. The officer says we'll be looking at cameras. Can I be assured, and I wouldn't need to put this motion up, if that were to include the coverage, please?
Can you answer that, General Manager?
So the review we're doing in conjunction with Tasmanian Police does includes the technology, but also the scope, so the area of what we're capturing.
Thank you. Thank you. No more questions? Notice of motions. We have 5.1, notice of motion. So moved. Robin Smith, I assume?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't need to move that.
I don't need it no longer? Okay. withdraw that one, thank you. 5.2,
Thank you.
would you like to move the motion?
Do you want me to?
Oh, just to move it, and then we'll get a seconder.
Yes, please. I move it.
And there's a seconder. Thank you. So now you may speak to it.
The seconder was my wife, Jeanette
Yeah.
Smith.
Met before.
This motion 5.2 is that, and I'll read it, that council review those matters it is responsible for in connection with the operation of social services, that is the food distribution for the poor and those sleeping on the streets, etc., as operated in Brisbane Street Mall. Currently, and I have been led to believe that council doesn't actually issue permits for that occupancy or that use of the mall. Whether it's necessary, I'm not sure, but it's fair to say that most nights of the week, some sort of vehicle, sometimes with a trailer or not, arrives in the early evening. It's preceded by those that are anticipating to get some, I don't know, warm food, friendly face, whatever it is they offer. But unfortunately, the vehicles park over the footpath at the end of the mall. And there are some antisocial behaviour issues that are quite apparent. Now, the mall is a retail strip, perfectly okay to use it for feeding those that are hungry, but I would suggest that there possibly are better places to feed those genuinely hungry. It couldn't be a more public spot. But I was assaulted by one of the recipients of food, and I reported to police and asked for the footage from council. Council had no footage outside Maya of that considerable area of the Brisbane Street Mall with no CCTV coverage. So it's not ideal. The whole reason that this food service and other social outreach services has been brought to the mall is because of the antisocial behaviour in its previous incarnation, which was down at, I think it's Royal Park, down at the barbecue. So it was brought from there to here. And I understand that the volunteers that run the service are very reluctant to report antisocial behaviour, which is, as you might expect, the sympathy is greatly extended for those that are, and a lot of them are in genuine need. However, it is unfortunate that that is casting an antisocial problem because of the amount of time that some of the recipients stay. So they'll turn it maybe 2 or 3 hours before, and they'll stay for perhaps quite some time. They're also joined, unfortunately, by other people that abuse the service or cause trouble, and it has become a bit of an issue, which is why I ask that council review that operation. Now, council might say, we didn't even know they're there, we don't offer a permit. It's, yes, you might recognise that it's unsafe, it's on the footpath, pedestrians have no passing capacity, the trailers even stick out into the road, and they cross suicide fashion across the traffic as well to access that side of the road. So I would put that as a motion, and I hope my wife would vote for it.
Do you want to speak to it at all?
Well, this microphone works. Yeah, I fully agree with Robin. I've also experienced the antisocial behaviour and people abusing us, and I don't think it suits in a retail environment, because sometimes some of those people, they're alcoholics, they're drug addicts, and things get a bit wild in the mall, and we don't need that extra bad element when we're trying to do retail, and it frightens off people.
Thank you. Any other speakers? You want to close it all, Robin? Can I put the motion now?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would say in closing that this is the one opportunity of the year for members of the public to bring a motion. Nothing comes of this today. It goes to the next council meeting, comes up as a motion, and it is the councillors that decide whether it goes any further. So really, this is not immaterial, but it has no weight as an action today. So if anyone were to vote for it, I would hope that it goes unopposed. So I'll vote for it.
Yep, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? So that's carried. Thank you. 5.3, cycling in the Brisbane Street Mall. Robin, oh, sorry, yeah, you Want to move the motion?
Yes, please.
Yep, and seconded. Thank you, Jeanette. So do you want to speak to it, Robin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the purpose of this motion again is a review that I'm requesting. It doesn't necessarily entail any great cost. A review simply offers a time. Possibly it might come before a committee of cycling. I understand on several occasions it's been reviewed. In each case, it seems to have drawn back the restrictions for cycling in the mall as it's progressed over about the last 10 years. It used to be permanently banned. At the moment, it's permitted between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. to cycle through the mall. It doesn't necessarily affect the shopping hours there, and certainly 9 a.m. is a very sharp shop opening time to have cyclists through. The cyclists we have a problem with are not the traditional cyclists that you think. That's kids on bikes going around, bouncing their front doors off roller doors to set off the shop alarms, whatever it is. But often a police officer has to review the sign at the end of the street, which is a complex sign. It doesn't talk about a prohibition of cycling. It says, it uses the words cycling accepted 6 p.m. to 9 a.m., which is quite an odd way of putting it, but it's to encourage cyclists. But on first reading, the words are cycling. Cycling permitted, yeah, accepted, which is quite an odd way to put it. There is one sign only on each end of the mall. With other signs, there are two, one on each side of the mall. So I notice there's only one, and it's very high up. It's about 3 metres up the pole, and it doesn't have a symbol of any sort, so it just uses words. Ordinarily, you would expect a bicycle with a cross, as it is with the small wheel scooters. So I'll put that I'm asking for review, not a huge entail, but there are conflicts, and I'm sure you remember that customer in the mall that was hit by a cyclist during the day, and he ended up with quite significant back problems, and we do get problems with kids abusing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded, do you wish to speak?
No.
Thank you. Any other question from Councillor Harris?
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question as to what the actual current regulations are, but to a degree, Mr. Smith has perhaps given us a good summary of that. And I just sort of wondered whether, in fact, we couldn't look at this as part of a larger review that will include e-scooters and other types of things in the mall when we do that, perhaps as part of that particular thing. So whether we need to have extended or whether we can have it separate or whether we just leave it to that review would be my thoughts.
Do you want to comment?
Just in respect of the e-scooters, I mean, that's a separate,
a separate
process which is already in train, and we really do need to determine that certainly early, either sort of this month or early next. So I don't think we will have the latitude to be able to fold the other into that particular matter. So.
Question, Councillor Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. Question. Is the mall a designated road or public highway, or is it, has it been gazetted into some other status?
General Manager. Louise.
The mall has never officially been closed as a road, but it is declared as a mall under our Facilities, Parks and Gardens bylaw. And the use of devices like bikes in that space currently are managed under that bylaw.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Do you wish to close, Robin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, only to say that I don't think a review would disadvantage any genuine cyclists, nor should it, but it might help clear up an issue that has led to a challenging of authority and a disrespect of a comfortable operation of retail in the mall. I think if a kid can cycle around crazily just before 9 a.m, it's not a good sign, and that's what we do. When we don't notice people that cycle through normally. We only notice the ones that are causing trouble, and this would be one device potentially that would address that issue.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's those against, so that's carried. Thank you. By all. That's the majority. 5.4. Robin, would you like to move that? And
Thank you. 5.4.
as is,
Thank you.
and seconded by Jeanette. Yep. Thank you. Would you like to speak to it now, Robin? You can stay up.
If I may. This is an odd one. This is an odd one because I understand, and I have asked questions at various meetings, and the advice being given is that council must collect leaves so they don't go into the waterways. But to paint a picture of how this operation works with these leaf blowers, essentially there are two council personnel that carry backpack leaf blower with a wand arm, and they walk pretty much all of the streets in together with a petrol-powered leaf blower in the CBD from about 7-ish, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they blow all of the footpath towards the centre of the malls or towards the centre of the road. Essentially, they have to raise the wand to make a draft, and they blow from any wall and make a wind tunnel, and they blow everything out so that the bigger sweeper can pick it up. What, unfortunately, the side effect is that the cigarette butts and dust go under the shop doors. They also inadvertently go into the stormwater drains because there's no capture, it's not sucking anything up at all, it's entirely blowing. And then that detritus material, whatever, there's nothing to stop that blowing down into the gutters and then running into the Kalamaluka or wherever it ends up. So it really, in some way, doesn't do what it's advertised as doing. The smell of the petrol is quite shocking, and I remember being here when some climate emergency was called, and it's ironic when I smell the two-stroke petrol that comes out of the back of it, and the dust, lovely, sweet, clean air in Tasmania is just, if you look at it after the crew, and I don't know if any council officers have ever walked around town, if you walk in front of them, you've never seen anything like it. The noise is phenomenal. I mean, there's endless complaints. I can remember the hotel, it's now closed, it's gone bankrupt, but it was down here, and they had a petition from guests about the noise of the leaf blowers. They are quite loud. So I would recommend possibly that council officers stand in front of the line of the leaf blowers and to truly experience what the public feel. So,
Thank you. Is that it?
This only asks for a trial, and when it says here alternative cleansing equipment, I think the officer misinterprets because the officer talks of electric. The alternatives are the Johnson sweeper that could be used, and there's a Hayco sweeper. So essentially they're two miniature road sweepers that I have seen on all of the footpaths where the leaf blowers go, and with no leaf detritus. I think it would potentially be possible to achieve the same cleansing outcome by using those two sweepers as opposed to the handheld power sweepers.
Thank you. The seconder like to speak?
Yes. Yeah, the current method, it just makes the noise and the smell, and I think it makes town dirtier. After they've been through, it's like town is dirtier, it smells dirty, and the shops, and they're not sucking it up, they're just blowing it around. So I think it's a bit outdated, and it's definitely not environmentally friendly. So.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Spencer.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know if it's possible to go back to the old way, to sweep it out away from the shops. No matter if you've got battery or electric or whatever, or petrol, it's still going to blow back under the windows. So it probably needs sweeping out and then use an alternative motion to pick them up like Mr Smith says. So probably sweep it out, because I don't think you're going to stop it going under the doors, which is the main concern for clothing shops, for example.
Is that a statement or a question?
Well, it's a question.
Question?
Can we investigate and sweep it out?
Do you wish to comment, General Manager?
So the purpose of the blowing it first thing in the morning is to get rid of the bulk leaves and litter. It gets blown into the curb. The street sweepers come through straight after. It's done every morning before people come into the CBD. The mini sweepers then spend all day getting around, so yes, they can pick up the same stuff, but it means that there's then potentially litter as people are coming into the CBD. Of course, we can sweep it by hand. It's a financial decision for council in terms of whether that's an acceptable cost or not.
Well, I don't know how you're going to stop it going under the doors.
Anyway, we won't go into debate on that one now. Councillor Walker, question?
Yes, question at the moment. Probably to the General Manager. Yes, I have seen the blowers. They are noisy and they do, in most instances, blow it into the curb as he describes. But in the mall, as Mr Smith is talking about, they just blow it to the centre of the mall and the sweepers go through there, I presume? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Cox?
Yeah, for the GM, you mentioned in your report that we've used leaf blowers have been tried previously, have been determined not to be effective. Is that because the batteries aren't lifetime of the battery? Just why? What's the reason? I think I know, but I'd just like to know why it didn't work when you tried.
And look, that was on the back of noise complaints, so we've shuffled around when we do the cleaning, so it's lower impact in terms of noise because they are noisy. It's essentially they didn't have sufficient power to blow what we needed to.
Thank you. No further?
I'll speak for the motion.
Oh, will you? Only if you're against. We need against before we go for. Yep, no one against. Okay, so we'll get back to Robin. Like to close?
Close, thank you. So again, I reiterate, this is a trial. I can remember a time when Launceston was all swept by hand on the footpaths. It wasn't that long ago, actually. It was probably only about 16, 17 years ago. Since then, they've been using the petrol-powered leaf blowers. There aren't leaves during this period of a proposed trial, and there's nothing to say that if it was a complete failure, the council couldn't immediately switch back to. That wouldn't be prevented from doing that, of course. That would be necessary. So with the conditions being that we're looking at the something to show that we're environmentally caring, the equipment is there. There's nothing that I suggest it be used. If council has an alternative, that's fine. Those two sweepers, sometimes one of them is stabled all day, and they only use one. So the equipment's there. It is only a short trial, and it is just two, it's day parts, so it's each Tuesday during March and April. If it were to be found that it was a failure, it could be stopped, but the next day it would be caught up even if it were found to be substandard. I did mention, and I was surprised to hear that someone else knows how noisy they can be. And I will say again, it would be interesting if an officer could ever stand in front of banjos and watch it go by, particularly on a nice sunny day, because you've never seen anything like it. The dust is absolutely phenomenal that it blows ahead. It is a giant ball of dust that's about 20, 30 feet high. It's absolutely incredible. There's nothing to keep the matter down. It becomes airborne and it stays. And in that, I won't even bother to explain what will be in that dust ball, but I've been through it and it's not very pleasant. So I thank you for your time, and I won't close with that.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? The ayes have it, I think. Thank you. We move on to 6.1. Submission and general meeting draft Launceston transport strategy. Someone happy to move submission be received? Councillor Walker, thank you. Anyone second to that? Councillor Harris. We should discuss it all. Councillor Walker, speak to us.
Well, I note that Mr Morell did ask questions at the last council meeting regarding submissions to the draft Launceston transport strategy, and those questions were answered in the agenda from is there, I'm taking it that this is acknowledging that. Is there anything further that I'm missing, perhaps, General Manager?
No, you're moving the motion.
I'm moving the motion. I'm just making sure that I'm not moving.
No,
It's the same, yeah. Okay, so, I wholeheartedly support the motion.
thank you. Councillor Harris, wish to speak to it?
No, I think it should be clear that we would always accept a submission. Whether we agree with what's in it or not is another thing, but there's nothing wrong to accepting a submission.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Can I put the motion? All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. We move on to 7.1, City of Launceston Annual Reports for the year. CEO.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So it's now an opportunity to give a brief presentation, and it will be a brief presentation today I'm going to reflect on our financial performance over the year. I want to talk a little bit about the UTAS Stadium reform, which was embarked on by the Council this year, and really just briefly touch on the City deal. And then the Community Relations team have put together a 5-minute video clip which outlines the Council's achievements over the year. So I think that's a nice way to consider the annual plan. So in terms of our financial performance, obviously at the start of this financial year we were grappling, as all business and our community were, with the pandemic. We took a conservative approach to our budgeting, and we expected that we would be recording a deficit, in the vicinity of, over $11 million. However, the way that the state and the council and our community have responded and managed the pandemic, we saw that we had better than expected revenues for the Launceston Aquatic Centre, our parking, the Launceston Waste Centre, all recorded significantly higher revenues than we expected. And we also didn't have the predicted closures that we were expecting, and our revenues ended up being $6.8 million better than was budgeted. And also importantly, from a CEO and leadership team and council's perspective, our operational expenses were below budget. So in all, we recorded still an underlying deficit of 3.1 million, but certainly significantly better than where we expected we were going to be. But we had a comprehensive surplus of nearly 40 million for the financial year, and that was driven by our revaluation of our council property and our infrastructure assets, along with the revaluation of our ownership share of Taswater. So that was our financial performance. UTAS Stadium has had a lot of attention of the council this year. So the council developed and approved the future direction plan for the stadium. So the stadium, which you can see there, delivers over $30 million into the northern economy in visitor spending each year. It's a really important asset, but it's very clear, and has been for a long time, that it's beyond the means of the council to be able to fund that at a net cost of over $3 million per year. So the stadium's not delivering to its potential in terms of what it could do. It delivers, 4 to 5 AFL games a year, 1 to 2 Big Bash games, and has recently in the last year hosted A-League soccer. It is capable of delivering a lot more, and the council identified that we needed a modern, fit-for-purpose governance and ownership structure that will enable the stadium to be redeveloped and to be operated and realise the opportunities that it presents. So the UTAS Stadium Future Direction Plan was endorsed by the council. The council lobbied the state government for a commitment to establish Stadiums Tasmania, which occurred in the election last year, and there was also a commitment to upgrade the stadium proper by way of a $65 million initial stage. And importantly for us, the commitment for UTAS Stadium to transfer across to the new entity Stadiums Tasmania, and so we'll save the council $3 million a year with this new entity taking on that role. I'll touch on the City deal really briefly. Again, the City deal is driving significant growth and development within our city. Over this last financial year, we completed the 3-year review of the City deal, and it's now delivering over $500 million, into Launceston by way of the commitments that have been included in the deal. Importantly, and moving into 2022, we'll be, as a council, working with the other two tiers of government to populate the next 5 years of that deal. So that $500 million will grow over the space of the next 5, and obviously we can see that hopefully sort of moving on if the trajectory remains to delivering $1 billion into our local economy over its journey, which is a significant thing for our city. Those were the major high points that I wanted to talk about just from a leadership point of view, but I think sit back and enjoy the video in terms of what we've done over the year, because it surprises you when you
City of Launceston has
reflect on it.
a range of exciting initiatives and projects in the 2020-21 financial year. Over the past 12 months...
We'll go back.
This worked when we tested it earlier, sorry.
The City of Launceston has overseen a range of exciting initiatives and projects in the 2020-21 financial year. Over the past 12 months, the Council approved 771 planning applications worth $383 million. In positive signs, retail occupancy in the Launceston CBD saw significant improvement, rising to 93% from 75% at the height of 2020's COVID pandemic lockdown. In a first for Northern Tasmania, the Council this year developed Launceston's cultural strategy, comprising 5 key strategic directions to maximise cultural opportunities in Launceston over the next decade. The Council also rolled out its Electric Botany project, inviting artists to take inspiration from the Margaret Stones collection at the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery, and to decorate traffic control boxes across the city. As part of its continued response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Council brought forward more than $15 million in infrastructure projects, including an upgrade of the Alexandra Suspension Bridge at the Cataract Gorge and new parenting facilities in Patterson Street West Car Park. The City of Launceston welcomed 10,000 FOGO registrations and began work on a new $8.1 million landfill cell at the Launceston Waste Centre. The successful community-driven learning site program moved from Mowbray to Youngtown, and the Council launched an expressions of interest process for the operation of rental electric scooters in partnership with the City of Hobart. The achievements of 2 Northern Tasmanian sporting stars were recognised during the year, with keys to the city presented to cyclist Richie Port and Olympic swimmer Ariane Titmus. There were more firsts, with the Council opening Launceston's first dedicated off-leash area for greyhounds, launching the city's first changing places accessible bathroom, and hosting the Council's first esports tournament. The Council continued to explore new technologies, publishing a map of Launceston for the video game Minecraft, introducing new flexible payment parking machines in the CBD, and expanding its free public Wi-Fi network to Mowbray, Mayfield and Waverley. Several new strategies were also developed, including the Access Framework for Action, a strategic framework aimed at improving accessibility and inclusion in Launceston, and the UTAS Stadium Future Directions Plan, which will create a sustainable model for this important sporting facility into the future. The Council successfully lobbied the state government to establish Stadiums Tasmania, a new statutory board which will assume ownership of the stadium. Stadiums Tasmania will complete a much-needed $240 million redevelopment and provide the Council with annual savings of $3 million. Launceston is a growing city, and the Council this year facilitated the amendment of the Northern Regional Land Use Strategy to enable the development of future residential growth areas. The Council also finalised the Greater Launceston Transport Vision, developed the Launceston Transport Strategy, and provided $470,000 in event sponsorship, supporting over 32 events in a challenging year for event organisers. The second stage of the $1.9 million redevelopment of the Churchill Park Sports Ground precinct got underway, along with continued work on the redevelopment of the Launceston Road Safety Centre and a new entrance at Riverbend Park aimed at improving vehicle and pedestrian access. The Council lent its support to the push to have Launceston designated as a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy, welcomed 9 new apprentices to its workforce, and supported $200,000 worth of new circular economy initiatives in partnership with NTDC. Staff at QVMag developed a major new exhibition at the Royal Park Art Gallery, replacing the former Colonial Gallery with fresh artworks and new stories, while the council also supported the new improvised music program Free For All at Sawtooth ARI. The Launceston Leisure and Aquatic Centre expanded its Learn to Swim program to adults, teaching older learners the basics of water safety, while planning work progressed on a major upgrade of Launceston's historic Albert Hall and a new Northern Suburbs Recreation Centre. Through the Launceston City Deal, the Council continued to contribute to the Tamar Estuary Management Task Force work, developing water quality initiatives and exploring sediment management options for the Kanamaluka Tamar Estuary. We'd like to thank Launceston residents for their support over the past year and look forward to more exciting projects in the future as we seek to make Launceston one of the world's greatest regional cities.
Congratulations, Luke, Simon. Doing that. Thank you, CEO, for your presentation. We'll close the meeting. Thanks very much.
We still need to vote on that.
Someone happy to move? Councillor Sale will move, second Councillor Harris. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
Well, tomorrow.